What's up guys, welcome back. So in the last video I wasn't sure how to authenticate using sockets, but I looked it up with feathers and luckily I found how to do it. So here's how you do it right here. Now this might look a little weird, so I'm just going to walk you through how this is working. So now what we have to do is we first have to emit an authenticate message, and we just pass in our access token and the strategy. The strategy matches is JWT because we were passing in a token. And then here we're waiting for the callback, and then in the callback here we authenticate, and then once we're authenticated we can then do auctions find, and then how we were doing it before. Now you'll notice we're double authenticating, right? We have to authenticate with the socket, but we are also authenticating with the REST client to make sure this token is correct. Right now we're double authenticating because we're both doing REST requests and we're doing sockets. It's not great, but it'll work for now. One way to get around this is to use sockets for everything. And maybe at the end of this video I'll convert everything to sockets because that might be a little better since we're using sockets anyway. Okay, so now if I just come back over here, I'm just going to refresh so you can see up to, were we even logging it? Oh yeah, we are. Found all auctions. So now if you see found all auctions right here, let me explain this a little bit. So you should see total, limit, skip, and data, and you just see right now it's empty because we don't have any. But if I were to just come over here, I authenticate, I get a token. So I authenticated with my Bob user. I have this token now. Oops. We're just going to create an auction so we can see it. So I'm going to come over here to auctions, the body here. I'm just going to change the token out. Okay. So we create a token. Now if I refresh here, we get the ID, name, current price, all that stuff. Everything we wanted. Awesome. So now what we can do is we can say, we can pass an action. And you'll notice right here, we're doing all this socket stuff and component will mount. And that's not really the best thing to do. It's fine to kind of, like, it's not great to listen, but listening is fine. So notice how we're emitting here, and we also want to listen. Emitting, this is kind of like making a request, so we should probably put this in our sagas. Whereas this is harder to put in sagas because you have to have it running in the background because it's just basically a callback. So what I want to do here is I actually want to just make a function, an action that we can call, and just be like request auctions. So we're going to create this action, and what that action is going to do is this socket stuff right here. And then after it requests it and gets the data, what it's going to do is it's going to plug it into the state and then update here. So let's do that. So the first thing is to create the action. So we're going to have two actions here. The first is request auctions, and we're going to receive auctions. Alright, so now we want to make two functions here. Receive auctions and request auctions. Alright, and then receive auctions and request auctions. Alrighty, so now in our sagas we can create another one of these guys, and this is going to be call find auctions, and what we'll do is we'll pass in the payload if we ever want to find something different. I'll show you guys like a little trick to make this more generic in a second. So find auctions saga, and we're going to be listening for up here request auctions, and then when we get the auctions we're going to receive them and put them in our state. Request auctions, we're going to call find auctions. Alright, here we're going to call find auctions, pass in action.payload, and find actions is something we'll create in the API. Find auctions, and then the response, if there's an error, there's not much we really do. Basically we just say if not error. Actually, I'm pretty sure we plug the response if there's an error or there's not an error instead. Okay. So here we're going to pass the response in. This is receive auctions. And actually it should be .data. We should pass in. Alright, now in our API we'll create our function. So we said it was find auctions. Here we'll take in the parameters for our query, and this is what I was talking about with making it more generic. So we can pass in the params here in case we want to query like the name and stuff. So whenever we call this action, we can pass in the params. So we can always use find. So we pass the params in and the rest can stay the same. Okay, so now we have our find auctions. The last thing we really want to do is just update the state. Oh my gosh, and what I just realized is we needed to make an auctions module, and I just put everything in user. My apologies, guys. So let's create auctions. So you don't want to cram everything in user. We want to separate stuff. That's the purpose of this modules folder. So create actions. So we're just going to transfer everything over that I just created. So copy that. And we'll copy receive auctions. And when we do that, we need to also copy that guy over. Okay. That looks good. Now we need to create a /api.js and sagas and reducers. Our sagas, again, we can just copy. Get rid of all the stuff we're not using. Not using this. We're not using this for now. And our API is only going to have those. Okay, so this simplifies this page a lot, and now we can remove them from these sagas, from the user sagas. Now reducers, I was about to add a reducer here. We don't need to. Our API though we need to change. So copy that, paste it here. And let's grab all this stuff. There we go. And we don't need async storage. So cool. Oh, I told you how we were going to use sockets, and here I am not using sockets. We're using an async function instead. So we want to do this with sagas, or sockets. So we come back over here. So that's how you would do it with not sockets. And before, since I already got this all set up, let's see if it works first. And then we can convert it to sockets if we think that'll be better. So receive auctions. So handle action, receive auctions. And again, here we are just going to, we don't need this. We're just passing the payload in there. Okay. And this is actually going to be an array. Now our index here, we need to get the auctions from auctions/reducers. And we remember we're going to name this with one S, or not without an S, not pluralize it. So let's move that. There we go. And then here, we need to fork these guys too. So we need to concat two lists, because now we need to get the sagas from auction sagas. Because we added auctions and we added reducers, and you add both here to our index file. So we have the user sagas and we have the auction sagas. Alrighty, that's all set up well and good. Request auctions. This looks all jazz. View auctions. So comment this stuff out for now. Request auctions, which we're going to need to map in here. Request auctions. And then we're going to bind it here. Request auctions. Alrighty. And of course we want to get auctions from the state once they load in, and we can just console log in the render function. So we can see once the auctions are loaded. And doesn't exist. We used auctions. And where did we try to do that? This is in our modules index. There we are. Okay, so we're caught on the loading screen. So authenticate didn't work, maybe? See what the problem was. Error. Not seeing anything in the log. Let's refresh one more time. See if we can see. Yeah, I'm not seeing what the problem is. So it's something with the auth required. So let's look at the saga here. So we should see call auth go off. And do we see call auth? Call auth. I'm not seeing it. For whatever reason, it's not calling the saga. Did I get rid of the action here? Request auth, good. Request auth. We're getting request auth from module user actions. Huh, this is unusual. I messed something up. Oh, here's the problem. I messed this up. Yes. So these are objects, and I'm trying to concatenate them. Alright, so we're going to have to do a fancier thing here. I know what the problem is. I messed up this. Don't need that. Okay, so the problem is yield. We should be mapping an array. And user sagas and action sagas are both objects. So we need to get their values by doing that. So the final product should be an array. And we need to spread object.values. And we're getting the user saga. And then we do the same thing with the auction sagas. And then we map. Alright, that should fix it. So we're getting all the values from user and auction. So we're getting both the auction and the user sagas, and then we're mapping them. Alright, new error. Okay, so I just tried to use find on the REST app, and that's a mistake. We should be using the auctions service. And then we can export, here we go, just like this. Auctions service. And then we get the auctions service there. And let's refresh. Cool. So now we see in our log some data. This looks good. So now what I can do is I can come over here to view auction. And instead of calling this each time, I can say this.props.auctions, and actually let's do const auctions, and we'll set the default value as an empty array equal to this.props. We'll say auctions.map auction. And now we need to come up here and we need to add a key. So it's going to pass us an array. Key is equal to I. There we are. Now let's refresh. Now we should only see one card. Awesome. Should still be getting the current price and stuff. It's messing stuff up. It's not showing it. The current price is there, so it should be getting the value. Maybe I is the second parameter. I didn't think it was. Let's see. So we should see the name that we're seeing from the data over here. Here we are. Okay. So now when I create an auction, I can create another one. Send that in. Notice how it doesn't populate over here, but if I refresh, it populates. So what we want to do is we want to, without having to refresh, we want to see that happen. We want it to just auto add. And so that's what we'll do with this little service where we listen for when an auction is created, and then we add it. So I think that's going to be it for this tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and remove this authenticate thing because I actually don't think I want to do it this way. I think I just want to do a REST call and do find that way. That way I don't have to double authenticate. And then I'll use sockets for this created, so it'll still be real time when things are updated. And I like that better. Alright, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.